It's been an extremely busy news day, one day before the NHL trade deadline. In tonight's video, we're going to recap everything in case you missed other updates. We're going to recap all the trades we've seen here happen today. We had a big activity on the NHL waiver wire. We have a signing to discuss in Anaheim. A few other news items around the league as well, including a potential contract extension for Corey Perry, Colton Parayko rejecting a trade to the Buffalo Sabres, and lots of rumors about other deals we might see. We're looking at a lot of top players tonight to recap the last rumors here before tomorrow's deadline. We're looking at the New York Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, Vancouver Canucks, and a whole bunch of others. All the top names will be recapped and reviewed here coming up next. So welcome back to another video here, Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we've got lots to discuss. First, we're going to kind of run through some recapping of news that happened earlier in case you missed it. We've got several videos on the channel as the news continued to break throughout the day. But here's a quick recap in case you're getting caught up. Busy day in the NHL waiver wire. We had 8 players on waivers, 6 on regular waivers for purpose of being assigned, 1 because he had a new contract, and 1 for termination. The termination is St. Louis Blues forward Matthew Joseph in the final year of his contract, making $2.95 million. Joseph had already cleared waivers. They've attempted to trade him, haven't been able to do so. So his rationale here is that he's recouped a lot of paychecks. There's not much money left to be paid out on his deal. If he can terminate the deal and sign a new contract tomorrow with a team that's hopefully heading towards the playoffs, then he can get back to the NHL, be eligible to play in playoffs. Even if he doesn't end up with a playoff team, at least he can play in the NHL for the rest of the season. At least that's the hope, because right now with St. Louis, he's in the minors, and that's not something he wants to do. We've seen the Blues take this approach with a few other players, and it's worked out for them. So we'll see if this happens for Joseph as well. But he will become an unrestricted free agent tomorrow. He'll have about an hour from the time it's effective to the time that the deadline hits to sign a new contract and be on a roster that could be eligible for playoffs. We also had the Philadelphia Flyers today, signing longtime pro veteran Garrett Wilson, who's been spending a lot of time in the minors. He does have NHL experience, but it's been quite a while since he's played in an NHL game. Put a lot of time in the minors. He's in his early 30s now, and they've signed him to a NHL contract for the remainder of the year. So right now he's in the American Hockey League on an AHL only deal, so he wasn't eligible to be called up. Now he would be, because of the type of contract he's getting that does require waivers. So it's a league minimum deal for the rest of the season. Otherwise, on regular waivers to be sent down to the minors, we have New Jersey putting Evgeny Dadonov, we have Siplikov, and Glendening. So 3 players from the Devils. If they all are either cleared or picked up, that's going to free up a bunch of cap space, allowing them to maybe have more flexibility to do something else tomorrow. The Lightning have Curtis Douglas on waivers, and the Golden Knights have Cole Reinhardt and Alexander Holtz. So again, teams looking for flexibility here to make moves ahead of the deadline. We've had a bunch of trades today as well. The day kind of got started with the Capitals trading fourth-line centerman Nick Dowd to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for prospect goaltender Jesper Vikman, as well as a second and third round pick. Obviously, Nick Dowd's a pretty respected veteran guy who can really help Vegas's bottom 6 be better. He's got a year in his contract as well, so it's not a rental situation. We also have seen the Toronto Maple Leafs trade Nick Waugh, former Golden Knight, to the Colorado Avalanche. Of course, Nick Waugh was the main piece that went from Vegas to Toronto when they did a sign-and-trade deal for Mitch Marner. Waugh had a decent season in Toronto, but clearly with the Leafs out of the playoffs and struggling, they're definitely going to be retooling and making some changes, and he's one of the first names to fall here. So Nick Waugh goes to Colorado for a conditional first-round pick and a 5th rounder. So the first-round pick is top 10 protected in 2027. That's great for the Leafs to get a first-round pick back. They could certainly benefit from that. And then they have multiple 5th-round picks as well. So there's a condition on which one they're going to get. It's going to be in the 2026 draft no matter what happens. Florida traded veteran defenseman Jeff Petrie today to the Minnesota Wild for a conditional 7th. That can be upgraded to a 5th if he plays in 50% of their games in the playoffs and they win at least 2 rounds. The Vancouver Canucks in San Jose Sharks completed a minor league deal with the Canucks trading Jet Wu for Jack Thompson. Jet Wu is a draft pick of the Canucks and spent a lot of time in the minors not getting an opportunity in the NHL, so good fresh start maybe for both guys there. The LA Kings tonight traded veteran winger Warren Foegele to the Ottawa Senators along with a third-round pick for a second and a third-rounder back. So essentially, the second-rounder going from Ottawa to LA is a draft pick they acquired from the Buffalo Sabres in the Dylan Cousins-Josh Norris trade at last year's deadline. So it's Buffalo second-rounder, and then they're swapping thirds. So it kind of gives essentially LA a little bit of a slightly better third with a second rounder in there as well. Fogel's picking $3.5 million for one more season. Some people think it might be a little bit too much, but to be honest, it's not a buyer's market like we thought it would be. And Foegele does have a good history. Might not be having a great year, but he's a great penalty killer, great speed. He's had multiple 20-goal seasons. The belief here is that a fresh start on a team that's a little higher scoring and whatnot will benefit him from the offensive side, and a team that's very defensive-minded but can use some help on the PK. I think he'll be a great addition to that third line. So you can say what you want about the payment, but he's a great fit. We also saw Michael Bunting get traded from Nashville to Dallas for a third-round pick as well. I think that's another great fit for the Dallas Stars as well. So the Dallas Stars are making a few moves now, including this one. I think they're probably out on anything more significant. I think they're probably done. The Edmonton Oilers and Stan Bowman have said that they're probably done as well after making multiple moves, mostly with the Chicago Blackhawks. But there's a lot of people think that they are still looking at things and maybe we'll see something. We'll see. We also had a signing today with the Anaheim Ducks extending Ryan Poehling on a 4-year deal at $3.75 million per season. Poehling's found a nice spot there and a good contributor to the Ducks lineup. So I think this makes sense for both sides to extend him. Overall, after bouncing around a little bit, had a hot start to his career with Montreal, kind of faded, became expendable, played with the Flyers for a while. But he's finally kind of settled in here as a Anaheim Duck and been a good contributor for them. Some injury updates to keep in mind as well. The Maple Leafs confirmed, this was actually confirmed yesterday, I forgot to mention it. Chris Tanev is done for the year. He had core muscle surgery, so his season is over. The Flyers are going to be without Nick Seeler and Travis Konechny tonight due to injury. Yoel Armia in Los Angeles might be done for the rest of the season as well. He's definitely going to be out for an extended time, but his season, at least for the regular season, could be over if they make the playoffs. Sounds like maybe he can come back then, but not until. That's another blow for the Los Angeles Kings here. Vegas officially added Mark Stone to IR. Dylan Larkin is expected to probably not miss time with Detroit. He left last night's game after a cross-check to the ribs, but right now the belief is he may be able to play the next game, so we'll see. And John Gibson appears ready to return after missing one game. The Columbus Blue Jackets tonight are without Zach Werenski again, still out, and Dante Fabra also out with injury. Will miss tonight's game as well. A few news items around the league before we get into the rumor mill. We know that Nick Schmaltz in Utah seems unlikely to be traded. The belief there in the news update on him, according to a few NHL insiders, is that they're making progress on a contract extension and that he's likely going to stay. At least that's the belief right now. Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon has reached an agreement to sell 12.5% of his stake in the Carolina Hurricanes. The team has been valued at $2.66 billion. That 12.5% will be divided up amongst 3 new minority owners. So obviously Dundon's been getting involved with ownership with other professional sports teams. Probably good for him to kind of make some changes to his portfolio to kind of maybe liquefy some of his assets in that sense. Corey Perry in Los Angeles also expected to not be traded. He made it known that he wants to stay in LA and get an extension done with Ken Holland to play another year for the Los Angeles Kings, and he's not going anywhere. Colton Parayko officially rejected the trade to the Buffalo Sabres today. If I'm Buffalo fans, to be honest, I would not take that personally. I do not think, from what we know of the situation, this is a slight saying I don't like Buffalo, I don't believe in Buffalo. I think this is more just about personal preference. At the end of the day, he has a full no-move clause. He's also signed for several more seasons at $6.5 million. Parayko does have, he has full say. I know, listening to his former teammate Pat Maroon on an interview this morning, he said he didn't think he would waive. He's very entrenched in that St. Louis community. His girlfriend is a big part of, her girlfriend's family apparently is a big part of the local business community as well. don't think he really wants to leave, but there was some reports saying that he might consider staying in the West and maybe going to California for either the Kings or the Ducks, but that's probably about it. Have to think Anaheim would look at that. I would think that, although at the same time they have guys like Trouba and Gudas already on the right side of their D, but they are pending UFAs, whereas Parayko is extended for a number of years. And I know a guy like Pavel Mitnyakov, who would probably be interesting to the Blues, is a player that's reportedly been wanting more of an opportunity and could be moved. So we'll see if anything materializes there. Maybe it's in the summertime. I'm not sure. But for right now, Parayko's not going to Buffalo. We know that much for sure. Simon Nemec of the New Jersey Devils, according to Elliot Friedman, has also changed agencies, which is also notable. We've heard his name pop up in the rumor mill as well. The Devils apparently willing to consider moving him. But again, I think he's one of those players that they would only do it in a significant deal where they're getting a major player back. And at this point, that's kind of hard to predict. But Nemec could be a piece. It's believed that only Brett Pesce and Luke Hughes are defensemen on the Devils that seem to be somewhat untouchable. So we'll see what happens, but he's got a new agent now rep by Craig Oster. So I'm sure it's something between the contract, trade availability, all that's kind of weighing. So that's around his decision there. Now, bunch of rumors. So who's going to get moved? Who's not? Where's everything sitting in the rumor mill? We got a lot of players sitting tonight. The New York Rangers have Vincent Trocheck and Sam Carrick held out of tonight's lineup against the Maple Leafs. They're not playing. Expected to be traded. Trocheck, again, one of the top names on the most player or reporters list for guys that are expected to be moved here. The Rangers haven't had their asking price met yet, which is why they're holding on here. But after seeing a lot of other movement, you got to wonder if maybe their price is too high. There was believed that Minnesota is still the front runner, but they haven't obviously come together yet. So we'll see. But Trocheck's getting a lot of interest. Carolina and Detroit also believed to have interest in Trocheck. I think to some degree maybe Montreal, but I think the other teams in the States were probably more likely and seem to have more interest there. After the Los Angeles Kings traded Warren Foegele, freed up some money. A lot of people think maybe they're not done and want to add some more scoring after losing a number of players like Kevin Fiala to injury. You have to wonder if they might circle back to Montreal and take another look at Patrick Laine. Laine has missed a lot of time this year, but still has a prolific shot, able to score in a power play, could be a good help there. He's also missed so much time due to injury this year that he would actually qualify for a one-year deal next year with a lot of bonuses built in. So a team could reduce their risk and pay him a small salary but have a lot of bonuses. So if he does really well, he can make a lot of money. And if he doesn't, he'll make less. So a team like LA might be in a situation where they could benefit from that. So we'll see, but you have to think that they're up to something after freeing up the money from the Foegele contract trade. Nashville, according to Frank Saravalli, is basically wanting to sell anything and everything. Barry Trotz on his way out as general manager seems like he wants to do a complete teardown and give the new GM a complete fresh start to work with. So obviously teams have to be inquiring and salivating over a number of players there. We know guys like Stamkos have a no trade, but you have to think people are going to call. I don't know if it's going to happen, but you think people are going to at least check in on Philip Forsberg, UC Saros. I don't know. You have to think, but they've already moved Blankenberg. We already know that Eric Howlett's probably going somewheres, but we've heard Stamkos prefers to stay. We've heard Ryan O'Reilly prefers to stay. And even though Trotz has given O'Reilly basically, there's no contract or no trade protection in his contract for O'Reilly, I think that they'd be hold their word and not move him without his permission. But some people are wondering, especially where Trotz is on his way out, would he move him anyways, even though he might not be in favor of it? We'll see. I mean, at the same time, if I'm acquiring team, do I really want to acquire an unhappy, grumpy Ryan O'Reilly that doesn't want to be there? So I'm not sure, right? But they are rumored to be trying to move anything and everything. So I'm sure their phones are ringing off the hook here. The Panthers are holding out AJ Greer tonight, so he's expected to be drawing interest. Sergei Bobrovsky also not starting. He's on the bench as the backup in tonight's game. But again, lots of speculation about Bobrovsky, but the belief is that it's more likely than not that he stays or that he doesn't get moved and stays. But there is a big gap in negotiations. He does sound like he wants to stay, but we'll see how things play out there. Obviously, Bobrovsky is a very interesting name, but right now, he's not playing tonight. Something could come together, but I think it's probably less likely. Some teams are also in on Connor Garland in Vancouver. The Islanders and Blue Jackets are the main teams we've heard about so far. There could be others, but obviously he's got term. The Canucks are not forced to make a move, but they certainly would be crazy not to consider anything and everything around some of their veteran guys. So we'll see what the latest is on Garland. We've also got some updates in St. Louis. Lots of names in St. Louis are available. We know Jordan Binnington could be moved. Braden Shen. We know, obviously, that Parayko's been getting interest. Robert Thomas, arguably the top player that's been kind of bantered about in the rumor mill as of late. Sounds like a lot of teams have interest, and so far, everybody's been reluctant to pay the price tag. Utah is probably the team that's best positioned. It might be the best fit for him, but even they've kind of been reluctant to pay the price tag. They're looking for a massive haul of 3 or 4 pieces, and as much as teams love Thomas, they may not want to pay it. Montreal, to some degree, Boston, Detroit, maybe Carolina, all kind of have varying levels of interest and have had conversations as well, but we'll see on that one. A great player. He's going to be one of the most talked about names, but big price. Nazem Kadri in Calgary. Apparently there was a lot of talk about him in the Avalanche. Elliot Friedman did put out a blog tonight discussing that he believes there was discussions, and for some, they were close to having an agreement. But a big thing for Colorado is they needed Calgary to retain money, and at the end of the day, they wouldn't do that. Now, some believe that Craig Conroy, the GM, was willing to do it, but ownership overruled him. I can't verify that, but there are some people out there that think that might be the case, because we've heard about that with Calgary ownership before. Wouldn't be shocking if it was legit, but because of that, the Avalanche moved on. They got Nick Waugh, so certainly doesn't seem like there's a reunion that's coming for Kadri in the Avalanche. Certainly other teams out there, Montreal, maybe Minnesota, maybe Boston, I'm sure all have different levels of interest, but where he ends up, if anywhere besides Calgary, still remains to be seen. Elliot's blog also talked about the Leafs, and of course, talking about how they're looking for deals for guys like Bobby McMahon, Scott Lawton, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They've held those guys out of the lineup, so obviously, deals are probable for all of them. The belief is on McMahon that they would like to get a first. If they can't, they probably would accept 2 seconds, like we've seen on the Kiefer Sherwood trade. He also mentions that to some degree, Matthew Knies' name is out there. Again, I don't think they're actively trying to move Knies, but it sounds like they've been trying to gauge the market on what his return could generate, that if they were to be able to get in on a massive deal for a huge name, that maybe they would consider it. So I think they're kind of just gauging the market, if you will. But Knies' name is out there, and I've seen other insiders corroborate that report from Elliott as well, that he's definitely out there, but it seems like a long shot unless a massive deal come together. And at the end of the day, they felt like they had to do it to make themselves better. We'll see. Other names, less notable, but names to watch as well, include Luke Schenn in Winnipeg, Logan Stanley in Winnipeg. Those guys are guys that could be moved. If Ottawa does anything further, there's something that maybe Stephen Halliday is an interesting prospect that has had some NHL experience this year, that maybe teams are looking at him. Again, it would have to be for a fairly big name player. I think that Sens really like Halliday. So unless they're getting a massive upgrade, I don't think that happens. But they also now, with the addition of Foegele, have a lot of bottom 6 players, whether it's David Perron, Lars Eller, somebody like that. I could see maybe a veteran bottom 6er maybe getting moved out. Hard to say. Kent Johnson's name in Columbus is definitely out there too. He's not had a consistent spot in and out of the lineup. He definitely has talent. I think he's needed to get out of there for a while. Shane Wright's also a name in Seattle to watch. The Kraken still want to add a big name, and they would be willing to include him to bring in a top line player. And we'll see what happens. So lots of names out there. It's going to be a very busy, probably next number of 12 to 20 hours or whatever it is that's left before the deadline. It's less than a day. We know that. If there's any more trades tonight, of course, I'll be back with another video. Hopefully none of the information in this video is changed or is obsolete or anything by the time it hits YouTube and you have a chance to watch it, as they always say, hurry up and watch this before the information changes, because information at this time of year changes quite rapidly. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. I might be back tonight with more trade talk, if there is any. If not, we'll be having plenty of content tomorrow. It's going to be a busy day. Buckle up. This is the place to get all your updates. I'll keep you up to date with everything moving forward. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.